Communicating the needs of the industry, the offerings of the manufacturers, and encouraging product innovation has never been more important.
Yes, the IABM has evolved into an industry body that we all look up to for guidance, advice, tips and help and information. They give us the insider knowledge to help us succeed.
Reports and research form a large and much valued part of the IABM, and to talk a bit more about what they're up to at the moment is Lorenzo Zanni, who is Head of Knowledge at the IABM and joins us all the way from Luxemburg.
Hi Lorenzo, welcome to the show. Now, your reports are widely quoted in international publications and conferences. Can you tell us a little bit about the reports you've been looking into recently?
Hi, Simon. Hi, Emma. Thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure. It's great to talk to you. So in terms of our research, we've been looking at particularly content creation and production in this period, as we plan to start from the beginning of the content supply chain. And then we've been looking at specific sectors of the industry. So, for example, live news and live sports. We published a report on live news, and we're about to publish another report on live sports. In terms of the formats of these reports, we've been publishing larger reports as usual, but we've also adopted a new approach as we are publishing smaller pieces of content called Media Tech Intelligence Briefings, because we've understood that we needed to adapt to the constantly changing landscape and the fact that with the pandemic, everything is changing so quickly. So we've recently published 3 briefings, one on CES, the show, CES 2021, and what are the implications of that show. One on the satellite market, and one, as I said, is the first kind of anticipation of the bigger report on content creation and production.
Okay, so so content creation and production, very relevant to us. What were your main takeaways from this report?
It was very interesting to go through that part of the content supply chain, the creative part of the content supply chain, and to understand what has been the impact of COVID-19 on content production. We've uncovered, I think, some interesting insights in terms of the occurrence as well of content production. The industry has been severely hit by the cancellations in 2020, and we think production schedules remain vulnerable to COVID transmission rates. And for this reason, we've noticed that some investment is slowly moving towards areas that are less vulnerable to these transmission rates, such as Asia, which was very interesting, and we've heard that in some interviews as well. Also, it was very interesting to look at the relationship between the business model supporting content and content investment. We think there is quite a conflict there, because a lot of investment is going into original content, particularly from big streaming organizations. But at the same time, some of the business models supporting content, such as the ones in the sports industry and the cinema industry, and we give some specific examples in the report as well, are being disrupted by the transition to direct to consumer and the increasing streaming consumption. And also from a technology perspective, we've had a look at the increasing investment out of necessity in activities and technologies such as remote production and cloud technology. And we've noticed interesting insights in terms of the way media companies were planning on deploying, for example, remote production models before the pandemic, and how that actually panned out after the pandemic struck. So there are a lot of different insights in this report, in quite a concise report that should be easy to access for everyone.
Now, Lorenzo, we very much enjoyed working together for the BAM Live virtual event, which was delivered by the IABM in December last year. Now, we know there's something big coming up in March this year. Can you give us a little bit more insight on that and your plans for the rest of the year as well?
Yes, of course. We really enjoyed working with you. We loved working with you as well in December. I think in terms of the event in March, compared to the one in December, we've split the event into the different quarters. So we are focusing on a specific thing every quarter. In March, we're focusing on content creation and production. So there is a similarity with the report as well. And we'll be looking at hot topics in that part of the content supply chain. So things like technology enabling creativity. We'll be looking at different workflow models and different sectors, such as sports and news. We'll be looking at different experiences in terms of quality, but also in terms of convenience. So what's more important between quality and convenience in the age of streaming. So we'll be tackling different topics in much more detail, I think. And we are adopting this kind of, we're going through this kind of journey throughout the content supply chain. So starting from content creation and production, moving throughout media supply chains in the middle of the year, like in the middle of the content chain. And at the end of the year, we will be focusing on content distribution and monetization models. So the economics underpinning media offerings.
With all of your reports that you do, I want to just quickly go back to that. Are there any parts of the industry, any areas of reporting that you would like to see more of? And let's think of that. Is that different types of reports on existing areas of the market, but also think of it, are there any other market areas? Are there any like evolving markets? Like recently we saw a lot more esports coming in. Are there other areas of reporting that you'd like to see more of?
Yes, of course. So I think in terms of the work we are doing at IABM, we are trying to do a little bit more of that, particularly through the briefings approach I've discussed before. So delivering smaller pieces of content on specific parts of the industry. That I think plays into that thing. And I think also with the research, we're going to be closely following our events. So I'm looking forward to going through the content supply chain from the start of the year, as I said, content creation production, but then analyzing what has been the impact of COVID-19, but also our media supply chains developing, both from virtual media supply chains, as we call them, and data-driven supply chains, and also media economics. And also, finally, I think this year has made us understand how much media technology is important for all of us in our everyday life, because we've had to communicate virtually because of the pandemic. So I think I'm very interested personally in the new markets that are using media technology as well. So I'm looking forward to going through a little bit of that as well.
So I think it's fair to say, Lorenzo, traditionally the IABM is known as an organisation that looks after the interest of manufacturers within the industry. But of course, your reports and research go much wider than that in their appeal, of course, and coverage. What other areas of the industry are you maybe looking to engage with more, and how are you planning to do it?
Yeah, I think a lot of them in summary, but I think we need to think about ourselves as the glue of the overall industry ecosystem. So I'm trying to connect different organizations that represent different interests, trying to connect the demand and supply side of the media technology industry. So engaging more with the media companies, coming back to what I said before on, industry that are increasingly using media technology, trying to engage more with these industries that are traditionally outside our comfort zone. So I think in summary, I would say we need to evolve as well. We need to adapt. We need to get out of our comfort zone and try to engage with the new sides of the industry. And if we come back to media, just to coming back to that, I think a lot more of our members are coming from the new media streaming side of the industry. I think we should continue to go into that, and at the same time supporting other members as well. And I think in summary, really, it's about being the glue of the overall ecosystem. And of course, with BAM Live this year, providing a platform to enable everyone from different sides to share different perspectives, to get together, network, albeit virtually, and sharing ideas and getting together on specific topics that are important to different sides of the industry. Because the world is complex, so I think we could really benefit from having different perspectives as well.
Mm. Yeah,
absolutely. It just helps talking about it. It just generally, doesn't it? Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Lorenzo. We're certainly looking forward to the next BAM Live in March, and actually would recommend that everyone Googles it, looks up. We'll put a link in the description that you log on and watch. Thank you very much to Mediaproxy for supporting the show. Check them out at mediaproxy.com, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.